I very quickly want to do an introduction. Well, I should introduce myself first. I'm Sarah Frame. I am the CEO of the Mass Technology Leadership Council. To those of you that don't know us, we're a trade association that represents the tech industry here in Massachusetts with the express purpose of helping executives and their teams learn, make better, faster, less risky decisions so that they can stay here, grow here, flourish here. And I think that this topic is something that is a huge resource for that to happen. So, very excited that we have the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development, Lauren Jones, here, who is not just somebody that knows about this from her post now, but is somebody that I met when she took on as the state director of Apprenti, Massachusetts. So is somebody that truly believes in upskilling and reskilling and how imperative that is. And Molly Jacobson, who leads the Commonwealth Corporation, which is a quasi organization and is responsible um, for 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 managing these monies and for putting these grants out. And so we have them both here to give a bit of an overview how you can and should be utilizing state resources. So with that, Lauren, would you like to kick it off?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah, Kate, Ruth, the Mass TLC team for bringing everyone all together. I appreciate that Sarah reached out with this topic because often when I engage with employers, different business groups, I often say we have this really cool toolbox for workforce development in Massachusetts, and we want to make sure that it doesn't just sit on a shelf somewhere or that only some employers are aware of it or only some workforce partners are aware of it. We really want to make sure our toolbox is your toolbox. So I hope through conversation today, you can get more familiar with a few tools in that toolbox. I also want to make sure, I know we only have 45 minutes, but perhaps I'll give a quick overview, knowing that Molly has some prepared content too. But maybe in between, segueing between me and Molly, we can just hear from you, or you can put some thoughts in the chat on what's top of mind for you. Actually, I'll give that as a little exercise. As we get settled in this conversation, maybe in the chat, if folks could share what company you're with and maybe what is top of mind from a workforce perspective, that may just be helpful to provide some grounding and framing for both Molly and I. As Sarah said, I serve as Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development for Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. I'll be rounding out my second year going into January in this role. But in addition to my time previously in leading a registered apprenticeship program for tech, I also worked as a peer, if you will, for Sarah and the Mass TLC team with another business group, the Mass Business Roundtable. So I know firsthand certainly what employers have experienced, are continuing to experience. We want to make sure that you have access to resources. Molly serves as president and CEO of one of our quasis in Massachusetts, Commonwealth Corporation, and that quasi happens to be under labor and workforce development. So when I talk about state dollars that we're investing in for workforce development, Molly and Commonwealth Corporation administer those resources for us on behalf of LWD. So one big team. I'll just share a little context, and I would like to preview one resource, and I know Molly has some information that will be really useful for you as well. As you hear, probably Governor Healy, she's very bullish in making sure that Massachusetts can be and continues to be a very competitive state for people to live, work, and do business here. And in order for us to do that, obviously, we have to think about how we can be proactive, how we can be planning and ensuring that we are delivering a more not only competitive, but more equitable and affordable Commonwealth. And from a workforce perspective, for me, I think about what does that mean from delivering a stronger and vibrant workforce. And I think about our people. And that includes the people that are currently part of our workforce, your employees, the untapped talent that you may not have thought about or figured out how to connect with, but we want to ensure you are connected to. People that may be on the sidelines, not even realizing their potential or the opportunities to jump into really cool opportunities that we're building right here in Massachusetts innovation economy. And then also thinking about people from the employer perspective, right? Ensuring that we understand your industry needs, the demands you're seeing today, and then also planning for the demands that you're expecting in your industry across the board. And I think for tech, we know that there are some employers that are tech companies. I see Rocket Software as an example labeled in one of the boxes, but we also know that every company these days practically is a tech company. It has tech embedded in their way of doing business. And so we hope that we can learn from you on what's top of mind in today's conversation, but also moving forward. I'd like to share that earlier this year, to help us kind of lead the way in thinking about how to build the workforce that we need, the Healy Driscoll administration released our workforce agenda. And it's grounded in 4 pillars. One, how can we attract and retain talent? And when I say attract and retain talent, to me, this means how do we get more people off the sidelines and back into our labor market? People that may have given up in trying to find a job, have had to care for a loved one, have pivoted in their career and maybe have taken a pause. How do we bring more people back in? And then what are the work supports to make sure that those people can thrive and be connected to the work opportunities? And so that includes infrastructure like caregiving, from childcare to senior care. That includes transportation and housing stability. But it also includes ways to not only attract that talent, but retain and upskill. And I know Molly will speak to some of the tools that we have on upskilling. The second pillar is around talent development. Through labor and workforce development, as well as other secretariats across the governor's administration, through economic development on life sciences and technology, through clean energy and the Mass CEC, areas that are now on the governor's desk and considering the economic development bill and how we continue to advance these industries. We're working collectively to close the skills gaps and making sure that state dollars are helping to build a strong workforce. And through that, we're thinking very intentionally about people, whether it's low-income individuals, people of color, individuals returning citizens, and other vulnerable populations, our immigrant population that's the backbone of so many of our communities. How can we make sure that we are reducing barriers and providing pathways so they can benefit from the job training that we are investing in and for jobs that we know exist or can exist right here in Massachusetts? And because of this talent development pillar, we also started to think about how we can provide you with innovative resources. And so I'm leaping over one pillar, which is leading by example, to bring us right to pillar 4, which is innovating our workforce system. And I want to just preview quickly one tool that we just launched a couple weeks ago called Mass Talent. And when Governor Healy first announced the concept of Mass Talent last summer, Sarah reached out and was like, how can we make sure that tech is part of this? And so we have really thought about these investments that the state is putting in high growth industries, life sciences, healthcare and human services, clean energy, advanced manufacturing, and now including tech, to make sure that as we're investing in job training programs like cohorts for cybersecurity, or thinking about the future of AI and robotics and what does that mean for our workforce. As we're making those investments, we're taking that trained talent pool and ensuring you as an employer are now connected to that trained talent pool, as well as a wider, vast pool of candidates that are looking for roles in this area. So that's what Mass Talent has become. It's a website, a tool, a connection for employers to meet job seekers and job seekers to meet employers. And if I can just a quick 5 seconds here, it's gonna be more than 5 seconds, but I'm going to try to share my screen. And Sarah, if you could just confirm that you can see the Mass Talent website with a thumbs up. Okay.
Yes.
We'll drop the link in the chat, but just to quickly and in 2 minutes share what we've created for you as employers. This didn't exist before. If you went to mass.gov, there was no landing page to bring together this connection place for employers and job seekers to connect. As secretary, I had to do a search in mass.gov to figure out where some of these resources lived. And so now we have one landing page and simply asking how to connect you to talented people and talented people to you as employers. So we have a link clearly for employers and a link clearly for job seekers. And if you click on the For Employers page, it brings you to this page where it brings an opportunity for you to search directly for candidates. And while we built this with a focus on high growth industries, we know that this can connect to even more employers and industries across the state. And so we decided with this kind of connection point, let's not reinvent the wheel. And we're leveraging a portal called JobQuest that our mass hire system has already used. It's proven and effective in connecting job seekers and employers. And we really just wanted to make sure we were intentional with the types of roles that we know are out there in Massachusetts, the type of roles that we're training for, and making sure that we're connecting that skilled talent to what employers are looking for. And so simply if you click on, I don't know what just happened here. If you click on find a candidate, I just kind of previewed this in advance, but I put in software engineer, and we have a mass talent filter that includes these industries I've highlighted. I chose technology, and I highlighted a few regions in Massachusetts: Boston, Metro North, Metro Southwest, and South Shore, as you can see in the map here, as just a way to narrow down the types of candidates for software engineers that we have looking for work right here in Massachusetts. And if you hit find candidates, it then brings you to a portal of 395 job seekers that have built basically a online resume, if you will, looking for work and having skills in this area. I'll just go through a few as an example. Someone in Melrose with an associate's degree, and they've described their background as computer user support specialist. But more specifically, someone in Hyde Park, my neighborhood, has a bachelor's degree and has experience as a software engineer. Someone in Arbondale area, software developer, and their resume kind of sharing a few different experiences in that. You can literally click on their profile to learn more and invite them to apply for the jobs that we know you are looking for. And we hope, especially for tech, that those jobs can happen right here in Massachusetts. So I'll just pause there because I wanted to make sure that you had a preview of that. We'll drop the link in the chat, but I think that was just kind of hot off the press, a new tool that we're trying to promote and make sure employers are more familiar with moving forward. And I know Molly also has a set of tools that we want to familiarize you with as well today.
Thank you. And can I just ask, can everybody now access the chat? Or is there still an issue?
No,
No.
unfortunately.
Okay. We tried to make you all presenters. So I'm not sure why this is happening, but maybe we can just pause for a moment for a couple of questions.
Yeah, sorry. I think if you go into your settings, you can allow without making presenters. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something working. That's why we were trying to do a workaround. That's okay. If somebody just says, if people want to just raise their hands, we can take a couple questions.
Well, the website link is mass.gov/mass talent. So that we couldn't drop it in the chat, but just so you know, and we'll make sure as a follow-up from today, Sarah has this as well as other resources that Molly will speak to.
And we do have one question to Sahana.
Hey, I was just wondering, will we receive a recording of this after this?
Yes, I will share this out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Damaris.
Hi, hello, it's Damaris, and I'm with Microsoft, and I'm asking because I manage and work with what we call our workforce development partners, and I'm thinking about how they work with us, right? They work with us to train, in these areas, with the untapped talent, with talent development, with upskilling and reskilling, to help place, whether it's at our customers, our partners, but pretty much in our areas, our solution areas, right, in our tech stack. And my question is how are some of these programs working where they can, they can actually work with some of the employers that they're working with, right, to bring in this talent and maybe even tap into some of the funds to support um, support the training, right, and the staffing that they're doing and finding this talent. So I don't know if, it might be in Molly's presentation, or it might be a follow-up later, right, to see how we can maybe collaborate and get additional information. Thank you.
I didn't want to steal Molly's thunder. That's going to be part of Molly's presentation. I should have prefaced that any of our programs that the state stands up from a workforce perspective across Molly's portfolio, as well as in partnership with Mass Technology Collaborative and other organizations, we really try to ground the applications in partnership with a workforce partner, including training providers, but also having employers at the table so that as we are training, we know not only employers are helping to influence what curriculum and needs are to prepare for what you are looking for, but also to have employers at the table ready to hire the skilled talent that are coming through those training programs. But Molly will touch on that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great, because our workforce development partners have to do both, right? They have to reskill and upskill and place the talent. So that's great. I'm excited to hear about it. Thank you.
And Carrie?
Hi, thanks for identifying me. I am not the unknown user. I have no idea why it says that. I'm Carrie Hayworth from the Center for Astrophysics. So you have, you said 300 software engineers. How is that information populated? Are you scraping people's resumes from other sites, or are they finding you and entering in this information? How do you get all that?
So I didn't dive into all the nitty gritty just given the quick time. So I appreciate the question. So we have a workforce system where we dub it as Mass Hire. Mass Hire includes 16 regional workforce boards spread across the state in every region. And under each of those regional workforce boards, we have 29 career centers also spread across each region. These have traditionally been your brick and mortar career centers that provide job coaching, opportunities for people to learn of the training programs that exist, resume support, working with employers directly to stand up job fairs, and so many different menu resources like that. There's also the online presence of Mass Hire as well. And so we, on the Mass Hire side, especially have kind of a longstanding practice of promoting and connecting with job seekers. And so that is where we're able to get and encourage individuals to create these profiles. As part of our link to our unemployment insurance system, we also require those that are on unemployment to be looking for work, and this is a tool for them as well. But we want to make sure that we don't just have a portal with a bunch of job seekers, right? We want to make sure that it's connected to employers who always tell us that you're looking for talent. And so while we've always had a space for employers to do that, I feel like hasn't been as wide awareness of the resources that employers can use to leverage this. And then in terms of all the job openings that exist, there is an opportunity for an employer like yourself to create a profile, highlight the roles that you have, but it does sweep the types of job postings that are across Massachusetts, and our team does a sweep through different resources to make sure that we are capturing as many job openings as possible.
Can we add us? I mean, while I could fill this out, can we just add our names to your resource list and have you kind of automatically grab it? Or is it something that we do need to do all the transfer over to, or copying of our information?
So you would, to best benefit from it, I think the opportunity is to create that profile for yourself as an employer so that you're able to then tailor what you're looking for. And I think it's I like to describe it as another expanding your pie of strategies. And so you may have presence on, making this up, Indeed, LinkedIn. This is another opportunity. But I think for us, we know it's with a population of individuals that we're trying to drive to as a resource, knowing that, yes, there's going to be individuals looking for work on their own, but also individuals that we're trying to capture. For an example, we may train a cohort. I use this as an example when I was speaking at the Mass Talent Launch. I've been working with a life science training provider, first year, standing up 4 cohorts to date of individuals that are doing 8 to 10 week sprints of accelerated learning, and with getting industry recognized credentials to gain an entry into the life sciences, and teaming up with employers right here in Massachusetts to hopefully gain employment. Of the cohorts that have graduated, the first 4, about 80% have secured employment, but about 20% have not. Those job seekers can create the profiles to showcase the credentials they've secured and be able to promote that. And likewise, there is this network of life science companies that this program has been fostering and working with. And now that marketplace, I think, is happening, hopefully, a little bit more effectively, but also knowing where the resources, the intentionality we've already been doing can come to more fruition. Hopefully that answers some of your questions, Kari.
Thank you.
So I know that we have 2 more questions with Sri and Parna, but in the interest of time, and I am sorry, this is a pretty accelerated event, but I'm going to turn it over to Molly. Sri and Parna, please write your questions down. I know you can't use chat, but just write them down. If we don't get to them, I will make sure that Lauren and Molly get them. But hopefully we do have a couple more minutes for questions. So Molly, I think now you actually can present.
Thank you. I can present. Thank you.
Great.
Wonderful. And thanks, Secretary, for the great tee-up. So as the Secretary mentioned, I am representing Commonwealth Corporation, which is a quasi-state agency within the overall umbrella of labor and workforce. And the 20-second spiel on us is that our focus is making grants, coordinating workforce development programming on behalf of the administration. And we take pride in our work. In the last fiscal year for the state, which ended this past June 30th, we put out $130 million in workforce grants across 8 programs, and I'll tell you more about them. We impacted 47,000 individuals across Massachusetts. We're really proud of that, and that is truly in every county, every municipality in the state. And the one thing you don't see on this slide is we are also impacting thousands of employers, but a lot of our grant funding goes out to training providers, to community-based organizations, and we always want to see job placement, but we don't even get to count the true extent of the employers who are hiring folks out of our program. So that's a snapshot of ComCore and the work that we do. And I wanted to show the team today, going into the state's fiscal year FY25, which we're in right now, ComCore has 8 awesome programs that are running on workforce training. I'm going to describe the 3 with stars today. I'm going to go pretty deep into the Workforce Training Fund. I'm going to give you the quick highlights on what we call the Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund and YouthWorks. But just so you know, ComCore has a pretty diverse portfolio of grant making. So within our sector programs, we sort of define sector as industry focused, occupational focused training. We have a program where we're funding Voc Tech schools in Massachusetts to keep their doors open at night, to fund unemployed adults to learn manufacturing, trades, construction. And then we have a bunch of youth and justice programs. We're working with individuals returning from incarceration, youth who've been committed to the Department of Youth Services, youth who have been identified by local police forces as being at risk of gang violence. And we're coupling our workforce resume coaching, career coaching with the Department of Public Health and police force intervention. So we're doing a lot. And if you or your company is interested in any of this, or you're just interested in workforce development in the Commonwealth, I would love to follow up with you and tell you about our programs. But today I'm going to get into these 3 starred programs, and I'm just going to dive into it in the interest of time. I'm going to start with the Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund. This one I'll keep brief, but just so you know, One of the flagship programs that the Commonwealth has had for almost 2 decades now is this program that invests in pipeline training for industry sector partnerships that are placing unemployed and underemployed individuals in Massachusetts into long-term training programs and then ultimately placing them into high demand industries in Massachusetts. So what we're really funding here are partnerships between employers, usually a regional workforce board that the secretary mentioned, training providers, maybe other community-based organizations. Those consortia, those partnerships identify occupation or an industry need that is really salient in that region or for those employers. And then they develop a custom training program that's usually lasting 2 to 3 years. And they're usually recruiting. Sometimes they can do an incumbent worker training, but they're really recruiting usually quite diverse individuals who are deserving of training in our state, of upskilling. And our most common grants are to the IT industry, healthcare, and then every region sort of defines a different list of priority occupations in what's called their regional blueprint. So, in Greater Boston, that includes professional, scientific, and technical services, for example. So each region is then sort of doing custom partnerships based on where the demand is. We fund a whole variety of organizations through these partnerships. A lot of the community colleges in Massachusetts are running training, non-credit training, or certificate courses through this funding. If you're interested or your business is interested in being part of this consortia, we would love to hear from you. You don't actually need to usually take the pen on the application. All you need to do is connect with your workforce board and say, hey, we have this real need. We have this real hiring need that's pretty consistent year to year and is substantial. It's not just one person. We're hiring multiple people and we are having trouble filling this gap. That's a great conversation to have with your local workforce board anyway, but usually what the workforce board is able to do is over a period of months, pull in a consortium and then drive an application to WCTF, to this grant program. And our awards are up to $500,000 for usually a 2 to 3 year grant period. So that's just a quick hit on our Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund, and the director, Adam Cutler, put his email on here. We'll make sure that Sarah can circulate these pages afterwards. But if you have questions about this, you can reach out to me. But Adam is really our wonderful director on that program, and he would love to talk to you and connect you to either a workforce board or if there are other consortia that he knows about that are gearing up for this. So that's WCTF, and I'm gonna keep rolling, but of course feel free to interrupt, and I will try to circle back with questions at the end too. I wanted to also tell you about our YouthWorks program. We're also really proud of this program. So ComCore is basically running the largest youth employment program in Massachusetts. We are annually providing funding for thousands of summer and year-round jobs. And Sarah and I did a little bit of a prep session. Sarah really wanted you to know about this program. Although we're funding youth, so it's 14 to 25-year-olds, many of them are still in school. And although these grants are usually done at a regional level, so we give a certain amount of funding to regions for youth employment, there are lots of site placements that go on, for example, during the summer to get youth into employment, into summer jobs, and it's subsidized employment. So we have some great partners, and they include nonprofits, municipalities, and also private sector employers, and we are always looking for STEM placements. That's been really important. So if your company or your organization is interested in learning more about YouthWorks and potentially taking on some of the state's youth in your region, we would love to talk to you about that. And the program manager for that, her name is Lakeisha Franklin, and she would also be very happy to connect you usually to the workforce board, or in some cases, it's the Boys and Girls Club or Girls Inc. who might be running the program closest to you.
Molly, I have a question. This is Jessie from Invoice Cloud. Hi.
Hi.
With this program in particular, we've got a high potential entry level program that we're running in 2025 that allows folks to come in, that are either new to the industry or new to their careers in general, have capabilities and potential over credentials is kind of what we're targeting. Do you work with people managers or the HR groups or the learning and development groups within some of these companies to also set them up for success in being able to support folks that come in? Because I think that's the area we're struggling with a little bit, is how do we make sure that our workforce internally at Invoice Cloud is prepared to support this and make it successful?
I so appreciate that question, Jessie. Like how lucky that folks have you thinking about that, thinking of how to set up a great environment for the folks you're bringing in at entry level. So in all honesty and full transparency, typically ComCorp, we're kind of an intermediary. We're putting the dollars out, and usually we're giving the dollars to a region or to a training provider, and they're doing the recruiting and working with the employers, customizing the training in many settings, and then like actually placing the individuals. But with that said, we do talk a lot about this because of the populations that we serve, whether it's English speakers of other languages, ESOL folks returning from incarceration, young adults with disabilities. We find that these populations are so capable, high potential workforce populations, but sometimes employers don't feel like they're fully informed or equipped or getting like the resourcing that they need to do that. So we actually try to have to make connections, and sometimes in some instances to host like communities of practice related to topics like what it takes to like be a successful ESOL employer. So if you'd be willing, Jessie, to if you wouldn't mind like following up offline, I would love to get I'd love to connect on this and maybe to learn more about the population that you're serving and direct you to the right place.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So the last program I really wanted to tell you about, I'll spend a little bit more time here, is our Workforce Training Fund program. I think this is what Sarah was probably thinking of when she was in her meeting a few months ago. So the Workforce Training Fund program is a program that was built to maintain economic strength and viability of businesses in Massachusetts by upskilling incumbent workers, so workers who are in their roles. We are funding hundreds of businesses each year. Last year, we touched over 30,000 workers through this program, and this is a program that is funded by our employers through this surcharge on the unemployment and insurance collection in Massachusetts. I'm going to caveat here that there are a couple different scenarios. Most for-profit employers are paying into this fund. You're usually paying a little over $8 per employee annually. If you are a nonprofit, or if you are a startup and you're paying into UI in a what we call a non-reimbursable way, you may not be eligible, but we can help you figure that out. So I'm very happy. I'll flash the program director's name, and it's actually on our website too, how you can figure out if you are eligible for WTFP training and paying into that fund. I know there's a lot of detail on this slide, but just to say, we have two flavors of the Workforce Training Fund program because we know businesses have different types of needs. So the two flavors are our general program. That is built for employers of really any size, but it tends to be more, I'd say, medium-sized employers. And the general program funds training that's customized to meet a business's strategic needs. So businesses can apply for up to $125,000. They can select the training providers that are right for them. They can also form consortia, so one training provider and maybe multiple businesses that have similar strategic needs. And that program is usually trying to fund broad, transferable skills like frontline, administrative, but skills that you're not already training for in your day-to-day business. So you're providing onboarding, you're probably providing some sort of curriculum to your workforce, but if you have a strategic need that that's forward-looking, that's going to help your business grow, that's going to impact in a positive way wages for your existing workforce, that's exactly the type of training that we're interested in talking to you about and potentially funding. So again, those are 2-year programs. I will say that companies have to be, again, paying into the Workforce Training Fund and financially viable. You got to prove to us that you're financially viable to hang around for 2 years. But that's the general program, and that is reaching, again, hundreds of businesses each year. Our Express program is for the state's smallest businesses. We're defining that as 100 or fewer employees in Massachusetts. If you are 50 or fewer employees, you get 100% of the of a grant. If you have between 51 and 100 employees, you get 50% of grant. But I'll get into that. But these are grants of up to $15,000 per company per calendar year for your employees to benefit from a list of about 5,000 off-the-shelf training courses that are pre-approved by our program. So literally, I would paste in the chat if I could, but literally you can go onto ComCore's website and we have a directory of now about 5,000 courses, and you can browse these courses and they are on a variety of topics. ESOL is one, DEI, leadership skills, building a climate-ready business, operations, accounting, a really wide bevy of course topics. And right on our website, you can select the course, fill out the documentation that's required, and apply on behalf of your employees. And we turn around those grants. We aim to turn around those grants in about 3 weeks. So it's a very, very streamlined grant process. I'm getting a little feedback. I hope it's not, others aren't hearing it. So that is the Express program. And again, it does depend a little bit on business size, how much we're able to reimburse. We're fully reimbursing up to $3,000 per employee per course for the smallest businesses. And if you're between 51 and 100 employees, we are reimbursing 50% of what you applied for. So Rob Duncan is our program director. He'd be very happy to follow up and to speak with folks. I only have 3 minutes left. I just want to flag that I have some other materials when Sarah circulates this, have a little bit more on eligibility, have a little bit more on the types of topics that we have available in our directory, have a couple notes on what's ineligible. So if you've been mandated to do training by a federal agency like OSHA, unfortunately, you're just going to have to do that. And we don't usually pay for that. There's a couple other parameters. And then we have a couple just tips and tricks to know before applying. But we would be very, very happy at ComCore to follow up with you. The program directors can start working with you right away if you're actually interested in the granularities of each program. And if you have general questions or again are interested in our workforce grant making, you can talk to me.
If I know Secretary Jones, you might have to run. I'm sure you are back to back. Okay. If we could just stay a few minutes late, it's such a compressed time, and there's 3 questions, and given the chat didn't work, I'd love to just get these 3 questions out. So if we can ask them as quickly as possible, and I'll go in order of the number of hands. So Sri, you are first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for the information-packed session. I really appreciate it. I have a dual role. I am a faculty member at Northeastern University, wherein we have a huge cohort of graduate students who are training with AI and machine learning and training to get into the industry. And I also am a part of the Mass Challenge 2022 cohort, and we are incubating a startup primarily focused on upskilling and cross-skilling people in the industry. We see a lot of people who are in their 40s and 50s who are gearing up towards like the later stage of their careers, and they're having difficulty finding jobs. And they come to us and ask, like, it's too late for me to get into a master's program. So I was wondering, with all these programs, how can startups like us engage with both providing curriculum, providing and kind of having the ear to the ground on what's needed, because we are hearing a lot from the people who are out of jobs and learning about things, and also work with the partner organizations to see how we can support them in both upskilling, cross-skilling, and also people who are getting laid off, and how can we help them transition into their next role. If you could share some information, I would be glad to follow up there. Thank you.
I'll start in case, Molly, if you want to round out with anything. Appreciate the question. I'd love to first hear what the name of your startup is that you're
It's
working
called
on with.
it's called Quant University, QUANT University.
I was curious because I know that over the years, I know the state has had partnerships with Mass Challenge, and so we would happy to learn more, especially since you are working on a product that is in our workforce space. And so perhaps Sarah can support a connection point after this. I would
Thank you.
say, just for a quick answer, regardless of size of company, type of company, we want to be able to find a way to work with you. And so as we think about the startup community as a whole, I know that there's probably some unique ways to tailor the needs that startups see for your talent, and ways to make sure that we're supporting that talent, especially startups that may not have a full HR team, or the team may need to be a little bit more nimble with different skills. And so would love to figure out a way, maybe through teaming up with Sarah, to think about the menu of resources that be more tailored to startups. But I would want to also make sure that, especially knowing there's a diverse group of companies on this call, regardless of what size or industry or type of company that you operate, we want to make sure to figure out a way to have our resources be accessible to you.
Yep. Thank you, Lauren.
Parna.
Thank you, Sarah, Molly, and Lauren. Thank you so much. Super helpful information. So I'm the founder of a tech consulting firm, and we focus on business transformation. I know that some of the bigger companies that we work with have been able to tap into some of your workforce development grants, which is great. But now that I know a little bit more, I will share the wealth, and hopefully there'll be more people taking advantage of it. My question is actually specific to the startups, and I know we talked a little bit about it. So some of the startups that I work with, I often tell them, don't take funding, go for grants, because that way you're not diluting your company. But the hard thing is, A, they say we don't have time, so how do we apply for these grants? And two, are there funding that, or would you be willing to give grants, or is there a process for startups that might be less than the, let's say about 10 people looking to scale? So that's it.
Molly, I don't want to be the one to, I can speak to it, but
Yeah,
to
I'm
you.
happy. I can start this off, Parna. Thank you for the question.
Sure.
So Concord specifically is focused on workforce training, and we do fund a lot of startups. In fact, the Workforce Training Fund program that I just told you about, over 50%, in fact, like 66% of our grant making is for businesses in Massachusetts with 25 or fewer employees right now, and a very significant fraction have 10 or fewer employees. So we are in the business of working. It's actually why we call it an express program. We try to keep it really simple, really targeted, get back to you in 21 days. And I think the paperwork you'd find on our website is usually quite clear or easy to understand. So I'm happy to connect you specifically on workforce training for startups. Happy to connect you with the program team that's running Express, and they can maybe walk you through, and hopefully could be a great resource for you to be sharing with startups, because we know that is important work.
Great. Thank you so much. Super helpful.
And Amy, we will end on your question.
Hi, everyone. I work with Acquia. We're a fairly large organization, but in Massachusetts, we have about 250 people, and similar to Sri, really thinking about how can we equip our employees to prepare them for AI in all different types of product innovation. So the question that I have is twofold. Number one is, I understand this is restricted to people that live in the state of Massachusetts. And then number two, would I pursue the quick training grants for those short form programs?
Yes, so the secretary, did you want to say something first, or?
Yeah, I will answer after you, Molly.
Yeah. So yes, I will say the Workforce Training Fund program in general needs to be for Massachusetts employees, and the business has to have a certificate of good standing from the Department of Revenue in Massachusetts. So you have to be all up to date there. So that is true. And the Express program is funding relatively quick form training. The length of the training varies by topic, but some of our courses can be 6 to 8 weeks. Some of them can be 4 months. And I think AI is actually a pretty growing area in our Express course directory. And I'd have to check with the team, but I do think we also are funding some general program grants. Those are the customized strategic priority focused ones on the topic of AI. I hope that answered your question, Amy.
It does. And by way of just long ago, I worked for Justice Start, so I am interested in workforce development as a job developer. I'm happy to, give back more in any way that I can. So I'll get in touch with you guys. My other question is,
Amy, do you mind if I just speak to the AI piece before you jump in with your second? Because I know it's such a huge topic and one that Sarah and the Mass TLC team is interested in as well. The governor has stood up a AI task force even to think about how we can connect with students like Northeastern to do some incubation, but also to stand up the, the industry and the needs that we have here. I would just say, just as a maybe follow-up item, because there's so much we probably can think about from a workforce perspective, would love to just make sure Sarah and the team stay connected with LWD. I feel like there's probably the tools that we do have that are readily available, but there's probably also some cool and creative ways that we could be thinking in real time on what that looks like, from building out the workforce and the skills that may be needed. And there may not be something that exists today, and I can't be in a workforce meeting without plugging registered apprenticeship as a creative tool to be able to think about that. And so we'd love to just make sure to keep the conversation open and hearing directly from you to see what kind of model may be most useful, if it's not what we've already described, if it's not registered apprenticeship, if it's something teaming up with some of the universities. We're open to hearing all ideas, because we know that we have to think kind of in real time to stay up to speed and on pace with the growing needs around AI.
Perfect. And then my second question is more of a tactical question. Commonwealth Corporation, do all quick training grants have to be supported by Commonwealth Corporation? Do all vendors, so I know Electives, for example, which is an online learning platform, recently had several courses approved for that. Do all vendors have to come through a particular channel, or kind of community development corporation?
I hope I'm understanding your question right, Amy. So to be listed on our course directory, yes, you would definitely want to work with our Express team. In fact, some training providers, it's a source of revenue for them, and they like to be on that directory. It's another vehicle for publicity. And if you aren't on our course directory, if you're doing the general program or one of our different grant programs, you do need to, apply, and usually we're reviewing the training offering. But I would also say that depending on, what a training provider is doing, there are other grant programs in the Commonwealth at other quasis and other agencies that might be providing funding to businesses or to training providers. And if that's of interest, or you have a specific question, I can think of someone on my team who could help you navigate that.
Thank you.
And I'd also just plug through our Mass Hire workforce system. There's also just free programs that we know exist, especially on the tech side. And I know Sarah and the Mass TLC team have a sense of this as well, from Coursera to Grow with Google, things where individuals could learn on their own, but I know also where we've, can collaborate, where there's inventory and network of employers that I think have built a I don't want to say, I think it's like a network with an example like a Grow with Google, where they're looking for that skilled talent that goes through a lot of their certificate programs. And so there probably could be a way to think about that for your existing workers too.
Great, thank you.
Oh, Sarah, we can't hear you. I know we're out of time. I just have one really quick question. Molly, I thought I
Sorry,
had,
that's what I was saying. Sorry, I was saying, can we
Okay.
squeeze one more question in from Karen?
thank
Go.
you. I thought I had heard you say that the Express program was for under 100 employees in Mass.
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, just double checking because Amy, I thought you had said yours was a little bit bigger. We're in a similar situation. That's why I was wondering. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Karen's with Progress, which is also a larger mass-based company. So I think it's what grants can you go for? Yeah.
Yeah. I think if we can close out with just one key takeaway that Molly, I think, has emphasized, we want to be able to work with you. We know that there's not a one size fits all for every employer that's on this Zoom. We're part of the Mass TLC membership. And so please take Molly up on the offer to do individual connections. We know even when you say an employer more than 100, we also know that you have unique needs. And we know also things have evolved so much even in the last few years for tech companies and what your presence looks like and how you're trying to maintain those jobs here and the kind of mobile network of employees that you are attracting to. We obviously want to make those jobs happen right here in Massachusetts, but we can team up with you, and please take us up on that opportunity to do so.
So I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you all, every single person here for staying 10 minutes late. Secretary Jones, Molly, thank you so much. I would love to repeat this. I think this is a really important topic that I guess even I didn't realize everyone did know about. So I think there's a lot more to be said. And I think you ended it perfectly by saying, everybody here, we all have the same interest, which is to help you all grow, ideally here in Massachusetts, and then to keep those talent that's here in Massachusetts. So thank you all. I will follow up with the recording. Molly, if it's okay, I will, when I send the recording, can I send the PDF you sent?
Absolutely.
Great. And if anybody has questions and you can't get to whomever you want, just reach out to us and we'll make the connection happen.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thanks,
Sarah.
everybody.
Thank
Enjoy your
you. Bye-bye.
Fridays.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Happy Friday.
Thank you.